Welcome back in here on Warchant TV. We're talking FSU football recruiting. Looking back a little bit to this past weekend, not only did we have official visits over the 3-day weekend, but we also had the Elite Camp, the Mike Norvell Elite Camp, one of two that will take place this summer, right, Mike? We've got one coming up
Yeah.
in July, but this was mainly, the future of FSU football recruiting, if you will. We mainly saw 2026 kids. There were kids from the 2028 class, one offensive lineman that actually
Yeah.
came away with an offer that was impressive at the camp. But
Yeah.
just all in all, who kind of stood out to you? There were some big names there and some up and comers who I think will eventually become big names down the road.
Yeah. I think you have to start, beginning with the quarterbacks. That was one of the more impressive groups. I think before I get to that, going into the weekend, I think FSU knew like there's several 7-on-7s. Kids are taking official visits, so they focus mostly on underclassmen for this thing because it's like, why would you waste an opportunity when you can do something later in July or get them on campus some other time compared to missing it. So I think they focus majority of their guys for the 2026 class. And man, that was a stat group of quarterbacks. Obviously, 5-star quarterback Faison Brandon. People have seen that kind of the video interview I did with him, and we'll write up a little later. Um, you got him, you got Dia Bell, who I talked to his father a lot. Another 4-star quarterback, and I think 4-star quarterback Jaden O'Neal was another one that was also there that I liked a lot. I think all three of those guys were really good. There's a few others that were sprinkled in that flashed at times, but I think for me, when I watch a lot of those quarterbacks, those are the consistent three that I saw just with face on. Oh my gosh, the kid is just the ball pops out of his hands so effortlessly. His release and this little twitch he does right when he throws it. It's just don't feel like there is any throw that's uncomfortable for him. I think that's the big takeaway when you watch his game. It's like everything seems to be in control. There's still things he can work on, like mobility, throwing in the run could be a little bit more consistent. Even the deep balls could be. I think Jaden O'Neal and Diabell, I think were a lot of those two were really just a mixed day where I think sometimes Dia was more great in the position stuff, and then Jaden was really good in the one-on-one. So it was kind of different, almost like different parts when you watch these guys. But I think that group was phenomenal. And moving over to running backs, man, I really love that Amari Clemens kid from
Yeah,
Mariana.
yeah.
Shout out to my mom's hometown, by the way. My mom is from Mariana. It hasn't been a while since they had a Mariana kid in there, but no, she's probably watched that and kind of smiling. But um, he was really good. Like, I mean, from a explosive standpoint, especially in one-on-ones where he had to go against linebackers, he was the one guy that I felt like gave all the linebackers trouble. And there was some pretty good talent at linebacker, but and there were other ones that got separation, but he seemed to be the one that when he got separation, it was by a decent margin. I love what he looks like in quickness and space. I think he had a really good. I think he had a really good performance. I think Jaden Miles is another one that this kid, guys, I cannot kid you not. I wish we could get more pictures for you guys from the event. We tried. It's kind of difficult sometimes in there, but this Jaden Miles kid's like 6'2", 200. I think the thing with him is just consistency from catching the ball. You saw it kind of, a few times where he had the guy beat and just either lost his body control or balance and missed a few. But man, this kid is got great wheels. He's very quick in space as well, similar to Amari. But I think the one thing for me when I watched him was just his ability, what he's going to be. Like if I was looking at all these prospects, he would be the top prospect because of what he's
Mm.
going to be, not what he is now, but I think what he's going to be. Ultimately, I think he will be the best prospect we saw there,
Wow.
on Sunday. But I think on this day, Mari carried the torch. I think he was phenomenal. I think there's a few other guys, but I think those two guys at running back really just jumped out to me. Um, and then you move over to the tight end position. I think for me, like the guy that just continued to impress throughout the whole day was Jeremiah Jones. Uh, that guy was certainly an offer candidate, but as I mentioned, FSU leading for Lofton and Davidson doesn't make a lot of sense for FSU to offer unless those recruitments go south. Probably not, but I think he was phenomenal. 101 was great getting separation. Hands were in the great right place. High point the ball really well. Just got the lean and separation and the in and out of routes of what you were looking for. I thought for me he was clearly the guy that really just stood out to me and probably a little underrated based on what we saw when watching this camp. Probably a guy that unless he hasn't been doing that in games, probably a guy that will probably get a boost based on just what we saw. I mean, frame wise, size wise, he has everything you're looking for. He does play as a mixture of receiver at tight end, but I think he's probably trending more towards a tight end in college with his body frame and how he's his body's coming together. But I thought he was sensational, and certainly if FSU needed a 2025 tight end of where they didn't have several guys lined up, I think FSU probably would have already offered yesterday, just on just what they saw and how he handles things and the things he could do blocking wise. I think he was great. And then offensive line, there wasn't a lot to choose from. Certainly had the massive Jachir Jackson kid that plays basketball that I know both me and Ben saw were like, who the hell is that guy?
6'10",
Like,
guys. He
yeah,
was
he was
man.
huge, but you could tell like it did make sense once I found out that he played basketball as well. But he's more of a like later in the season watch, like maybe that you take a look at. But I think he's very raw as far as what he can do. Wasn't out of place. He didn't feel like he was terrible. He felt like he won some reps, he lost some reps. So there's a lot to work with size wise. Certainly, he doesn't even a big kid. He feel like he moves well. He doesn't move out of position. He doesn't feel stiff. He doesn't feel like cement footed or where he can't move and get the quickness. I mean, he does that. He just technique wise is there. He doesn't know where the hand placement and stuff like that. That's fairly normal and certainly has a lot of physical attributes that you love. But I not a guy that I thought like was one of the top guys or a guy that FSU would push for. But the guy I loved is the Ivy Carr out of IMG Academy, interior guy, 4-star offensive lineman, 2026. Loved his body frame for an interior guy. Looked perfect, and I saw Janai last year, and so there was a lot of drastic improvement based on what I've seen from him in a game situation or even just camp situation of his hands are so much better. His body seems to be more toned down and just used his hands a lot better. Even Atkins cleaned up a few things on before they got to 101s, and I thought he was phenomenal. I think FSU is definitely one of his top schools. Told me Atkins has been recruiting him since the 8th grade, so
Wow.
there's a long-standing bond there. But overall, I loved him and what his game is. Defensive end, although he's listed as I think a linebacker, the Xavier Griffin kid who can play linebacker or defensive end. Both
Yeah.
me and Ben loved that guy, guys. He was incredible. He was unstoppable in 101s. That wasn't even close, and it wasn't even close. Like
Yeah.
we Ben did a great job with the film and video, kind of showing you guys just how he just dominated his quickness. He was very fluid. He didn't everything he did was never tight. You didn't see tightness in hips or anything. He just seemed very comfortable in that setting, and definitely, I would say one of my top performers for the whole event. I thought he was just out of this world as far as performance. Could tell JP took a liking and loving to his game, so that's certainly a guy. I think 2026 they're gonna push hard for. I think another guy. I'm gonna try to say his name. I might try to even get Ben to say it. Um, Linebacker uh, Adam Balagoon Alley. So he's a guy that I watched, a good portion of when they hit one-on-ones, and he had like 4 or 5 pass breakups. He was right there, best linebacker in coverage. We are going to get up with him, guys, soon. But that was a guy that, okay,
Yeah.
that's exactly what FSU covets right there. A linebacker can cover. We saw that with Kalen DeLoach, how much they loved him, and he does a lot of similar things. I think in what Kalen does, moves well laterally, gets uses his hands well, quick off blocks, and certainly really good in coverage. So that was a guy that was also, one of my top performers. Receivers we kind of skipped over, but there wasn't a lot of top guys. But if there was, the guy that's already committed to FSU, Darion Williams, I did a nice interview with him. It's locked in, by the way, if people were wondering. But he was the one that it was the only guy I saw that there was consistent separation in his routes. Did a really good job in separation. We know that's a coveted need of what FSU wants and their wide receiver recruiting. I thought he was phenomenal. Hands great, high points really good, in and out of the breaks, quick separation right off the break. The first break of the route. So I thought he had a really solid day. So he really stood out. And then you transfer over to the final position, defensive back, and there was a loaded group in there. Ben,
Yeah.
a lot of talented guys in there. I'll go for a few. I think two of them really for me. To Darius Hughes, really tall, lengthy guy. He's a 3-star now, but man, he was to me, he was the top guy that I saw. Another guy I liked a lot was Shamir Arnokes. I think that's how you say his name. I'll just make sure I get it right. But I think he was phenomenal. I think there's a good chance that he will set up an official visit to FSU, eventually. I think it's a guy that's one of those guys, like, you usually have one or two that, hey, this guy might get an offer, or this guy might be a one they wanted to see just live. And I think Shamar was one of those. I think he was right there with Tadarius for me when I watched him. Both of those guys, the one characteristic you saw was how they flipped their hips, in their back pedal, and just everything they did. It was very little tightness. Their closing ability on the ball was phenomenal throughout the whole day. The other guy I liked was 2026 4-star DB Michael Aguniheni. Or if I messed your name up, man, I'm sorry, but that's that's a tough one to nail down. But I think all three of those guys were good. But those two I mentioned before, like Shamir and Darius, I thought really carried the torch much of the day as far as their performance, and certainly garnered a lot of praise. When I watched like body language of Certain, just the way he's teach them, and you could tell like he was impressed of different things that he's kind of you're looking for in technique and explosibility as far as pass breaking skills. I mean, we all want to see the interceptions and the pass breakups, but how you move in positions, how if there's tightness, if there's a problem with what they do technique wise, that's kind of stuff that Pat's really good at searching for, and I think those two guys nailed it.
We do have some highlights from the Elite Camp on the Warchant Press Room YouTube channel. By the way, make sure you subscribe to that if you haven't already. It's kind of where we put our bonus content and coverage. A couple people asked if we could put the names of the prospects. I think we're going to try and work on that for next time.
Okay.
Get everyone's names for next time at the Elite Camp coming up. So we apologize for that, but a bunch of the guys that we mentioned, we did get some footage of. So definitely make sure you head over there and check
What
it out.
what we I Well, I was going to say what we can do, guys. We have some of the list of numbers for these
Yeah.
guys. So what we can do is we can go into the thread, and probably Ben or Matt or somebody or myself can go in there, and just put the numbers so you
There
know
you go.
who it is. And we'll do our best. We'll give you a few things, but you're dealing with 55 prospects. It Then they take over off of their jerseys, so we have to search for them
Yeah.
to find them for interview purposes. But that's something I think probably Matt or Ben can do tonight. Just a few of them of maybe the main ones of, hey, this is who that is when you watch the film. But that's next time we'll see if we can put names in the video. But that's the best we can do, at least at this point.
Loaded group of talent, Michael. It was a lot of
Yep.
fun on Sunday, and that's your recap of the Mike Norvell Elite Camp in June. Another one coming up in July, so stay tuned. Until next time, for Michael, I'm Ben. Thanks for watching our coverage of FSU football recruiting here on Warchant TV.